welcome to the podcast Of Course They Make Me Crazy. It's about crazy family stories. We all have one, right? More importantly, it's for those of you living with someone who suffers with a mental illness. You can start to feel lost in their world. Now, I get it. I grew up with a bipolar mom addicted to pain pills. Hoping the stories shared here will help you through difficult days. It's not all serious. We laugh and joke too. If you have little ones around, hop in your headphones. Adults only, please. Last episode, Dalia, my guest who also grew up with a bipolar mother, also shared that her biological father was physically abusive to her mother. We left off with me asking her if she has a relationship with her father, knowing he went to prison for the abuse. Let's continue with part 2 of this episode.
I don't think he ever said I'm sorry, because when we started developing that better relationship with him, I was still living at home. And the thing that I do, he would just acknowledge, like if she was, doing her thing, he would just say, just let her do what she needs to do. Whether it was her screaming or whatever. Obviously not the abuse. I mean, he tried to get us out of that a couple of times, and I chickened out, and when he came to the house with the police, I chickened out and I was like, nothing's going on here. And then the police asked my mom, and my mom, of course, was a great liar. And she was like, oh no, I just grounded her because she didn't do her homework. So she's mad and she called her dad. Yeah. And inside I was seething, like, how dare you lie? But at the same time, I'm terrified. I was not going to say anything. And I was like, and my dad, I just remember his face on the other side, like this, like, I tried. Yeah. And, but my point is, like, he would just say, let her, just let her. In Spanish, the way it's said, it's just like, just let her, so that's why I'm trying to figure out how to translate that. It's literally just let her, but he was saying, like, just let her do what she needs to do. But yeah, he didn't like that she abused us. But again, I'm sure he felt like he couldn't say anything, maybe. Yeah. So
because he's been there and he's done that too.
And I'm sure that's why it must have been very hard. He didn't know what to do because she still had many demands on him, as she should have. He's our father. He should, contribute to the household. But I mean, it was just really weird, that whole thing. It's like I said, it's like, just looking back, it's like, sometimes I just wish I could have accepted things a little bit earlier so that I could have dealt with things a little bit better. But, I think I am, like you said earlier, I am how I am today. I'm stronger for it, and I've learned along the way. It had to be me that learned it on my own rather than someone, I don't know. Yeah. I haven't. I'm sorry. I'm just babbling now because it is just all a mess in my brain. But at the same time, it is acceptance. I've accepted what happened.
Yes. Yeah.
And it is what it is. That sounds horrible.
That's all you can do, and as little kids, I don't think we process. I don't know. I mean, for me as a little kid, because my mom had me at 15, I felt like I was a mom to her too. Like we grew up together in a way. And so I always knew internally, like, this ain't right. Like she ain't right. And this whole situation isn't right. But at the same time, then you move on, right? And you start to live with it. And just like you said, you lied to the police that nothing was going on, because what if, you don't, as a little kid, those, what's going on at home. But what if you told the truth? How much worse can it get?
Exactly.
Because when you see bad, you know that there's worse out there. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you don't want anything worse. You can deal with what you've been handed, but being dealt anything else is not something you even want to explore at that age.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I could deal with what I knew. I knew the devil that I knew, that I could deal with that. Everything else was, it was, because I considered running away. It's not like I didn't consider these things. I considered all those things. But it was just like, where I lived, I just saw, and at the time, I just saw very few options. The options that were available for me if I ran away were not good ones.
Mm-hmm.
I so I would rather tough it out, deal with it at home, get to graduation, join the military, because that's what I did, because I knew I was going to join the military, and get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
So I just had to survive through to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And you make such a good point when you say she lied. They are the best freaking
Mm,
liars in the world.
yep.
I mean, my mom could lie and you knew she was lying, but then you started even questioning yourself. You're like, damn, I believe I saw that. But she's so just convincing, and she puts all into it that you start to question your own sanity and
Mhm.
what you actually saw. And I mean, they're that good.
Oh yeah.
They're it's amazing. And I mean, I did that for years. I'd say, now I know she I tell myself, I'm like, now I know she's going to try to, I'm not to talk herself out of this.
Yeah.
Don't you start to believe her, April. Don't you start to believe
Yeah.
her. And I would tell myself that. And then she'd get on the phone and she'd start um her story,
Mhm.
or her, whatever you want to call it, her side. And then all that would start to dribble out of me, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
well, maybe she, no, and then I'd get on the
Yeah.
phone and like, damn, she did it to me again.
Yeah.
And just like you said, for you hadn't said it yet at this time when we were talking, but prior,
Mhm.
that you would just oh god, what was it? I just had a brain fart. um oh goodness, I can't even remember what I was gonna say.
That's okay. We had a really long conversation the other day, so there was lots of things we were talking about. So I totally get that. But yeah, I mean, the lying, like you said, when we got older, she tried to make it seem like like what she did was not what it was, and like you said, you kind of start doubting yourself, because obviously the older we get, the further removed we get from whatever that incident was. Like I I could take a punch then. I don't know if I could take a punch now. That's how far removed I am, but I know I took a
Yeah.
punch then, if that makes sense. So she would say things and I would be like, huh, was it as bad as I remember? And then it's like, no, I get the corroboration from other things. And I'm like, okay, all right. So this is how she needs to deal with what she did. And if she, as I got older, I realized that's what she needs to tell herself, because
Mm-hmm.
maybe she can't live with what she did to us. And if she tells herself it wasn't that bad, then it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, because so she wasn't as sick when I was growing up with her, so she got sicker as I got older.
Mm,
And even, I mean, Dahlia, even if it just happened a week, before, like there was a time that she got into the car, totally high on
mm,
meds, and she was driving to the drugstore and she hit a car full of kids. And she lied and told the police officer, I just lost my vision. All of a sudden, I just lost my vision, you
oh,
know?
wow.
And they went to court. Thankfully, everybody was okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, Mom, yeah, you lost your vision, but you were also high as a freaking kite,
Yeah.
you know? And she's like, no, I was not. My pills hadn't even kicked in yet. Yeah, no, no, no,
Mm,
no. And she'll have like this whole case, a
yeah.
case that won the judge over, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew that it wasn't true, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they're so convincing.
Yeah. So she convinced the judge.
She convinced the judge,
Yeah.
So that's how she got away with life, was just lying through it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, so be it, but so as you internalized a lot of that as a little girl, I was still internalizing that a lot as an adult,
Mm-hmm.
because she was getting sicker and sicker as I got older.
Mm-hmm.
Where I moved out of the house at 17. You got out at what age?
18.
18.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I was like, I'm out of here. I'm going to go live my life and do
Mm-hmm.
my thing. And truthfully, if you're in this situation, you should probably do the same thing, right?
Yeah,
Start
absolutely.
living your life as soon as you can. And even if you're married to somebody like this, for God's sakes, they, of course, like my father never left because, he loved her so much, my
Yeah.
stepfather.
Hmm.
Um, but I saw him struggle and struggle and struggle. And I think what a lot of people don't do, Dahlia, is, and you could probably talk to this more, is they don't feed their own peace when they're living with someone like this, right? It's
Yeah.
like, get out and make sure you're finding friends and connecting with other people and
Mhm.
sharing your stories and your struggles
Yeah.
of what you're dealing with. Because if not, you start to internalize everything and you start to believe that this is going to be the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it is not going to be the rest of your life unless you allow it to be.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was very lucky that I was able to join the military and get away. I know not everybody can do that, but that gave me the option, or however you want to look at it, to be able to be very far away from her, um, and gave us the time, I think, for she 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 got better when I left the house. And this is kind of the funny thing. I talked to my sister about this a lot because it's I'm the second in line of four, and we're about 3 years and then 2 years apart all the way through. So my younger sister is 2 years younger than me, and my little brother is 4 years younger than me. And they had a completely different, teenage years than I did. Whereas I was getting, horrible treatment up till the day I left.
Mm-hmm.
They got so much freedom. It's so weird because we'll joke about it because they got so much freedom. They got to go out. My mom would meet their friends, and all of this. And I think I had mentioned to you that my brother he's the only boy, the baby also. So it's perfect, right? And he is very lucky, and I am not jealous or mad about it, but he did not receive, really, I don't think he even got spanked. I really cannot think of a time that he got in any type of trouble. As a matter of fact, if anything happened to him, we got, yeah, we were in trouble, even if we had nothing to do with it. But so he was already going to have like a really good
Yeah, yeah.
childhood. But when my sister was able to enjoy some of that, which I'm glad they got some normalcy during their high school years. But yeah, no, yeah. That's another reason it's kind of weird, because when my mother passed away, she passed away 2 years ago. It was very hard, obviously, for everybody, because we lost her, obviously,
Yeah.
but then also because the situation we were in, I was estranged from her at the time. And that was like a normal thing. We would have like good years and bad years. So that had happened throughout my adulthood. Um, we'd be really good together. We would even vacation together. We went to Europe together.
Oh.
And then, like, we wouldn't talk for a year. And this last time was that we hadn't talked was probably about a year, a little bit over that. And so we were estranged. So that was very hard for me to deal with when she passed away, because I always knew I was going to talk to her again, because that's just the way our relationship went. But it just really, really sucked that she died when we were not talking, and that I was mad at her.
Yeah.
Because the second I heard that she had died, I let it all go. And again, it, I was going to always, and I knew that it was a process for me. But I literally thought that woman was never going to die. I thought the old crotchety ones, they live forever. And I just thought that I was always going to have her in my life.
Yes.
But I didn't. And so, that was hard. And it was hard because my brother had he had just seen her like a few days before that. She'd gone and
Mm-hmm.
visited him, had a great time with his wife and his kids. And I love that. I love that they had that time with her right before she
Yeah.
died. And, but he knew that we had a different relationship. So he struggles with that. We struggle with it. But I'm so happy that he got such a great relationship with her, and that his children and his wife did, because I'm glad somebody got to appreciate that side, and that she was able to do that for somebody in the family. And I'm grateful for that. So
Mm-hmm.
even though I went through this hell and everything, and I can still have my moments, I have decided that I cannot keep, I mean, I forgive her, but I don't, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I came to a realization, and unfortunately, I came to that realization after she died. It's like, yes, she was my mom and she had responsibilities and obligations to her children. However, she was also human. She was a person and she had a disease, and that was separate from her being a mom, and she didn't know how to deal with that. So that's kind of how I'm trying to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the point that I was trying to make when I totally had that, 40 something year old brain kick in, where I had that brain fart. But that is where you can, you know, hang up and be mad at each other.
Mhm.
And then the next time you call, whether it be a month or a week later, and you'll have to pick up, at least that's how it was with us.
Oh yeah.
And you just, think, okay, I'm just going to let it go, because if I
Mhm.
bring it up again, no one's a winner here. and
Exactly.
and I'd rather have a little bit of peace and be able to talk to my mom about whatever Lifetime movie she's watching at that moment,
Oh.
whatever she's doing. And I can, and to this day, Dahlia, even though she would, of course, make me crazy, she is sitting on my mantle in my living
Mm.
room, because she always said, when I die, I want to be able to haunt you kids. So I
Oh my goodness.
want
I
I want to
love it.
be on the fireplace mantle, and I want to know what you're doing.
Uh-huh.
So, as the oldest, she is on my fireplace
Oh.
mantle.
Uh-huh.
And I think she does haunt me sometimes, but in a nice way. I think she shows that,
Yeah.
she's here with me. And I think that as an adult, and kind of what you said too, Delia, is you would get mad at each other, you
Mhm.
wouldn't talk, and then it would come back, right? And
Mhm.
then you're just like, well, it is what it is. I'm
Mhm.
just going to let it go, because, and I think, for those of you listening, that's kind of what you have to do too, right? I mean, you don't
Mhm.
you don't have to do what you don't want to do, but I mean, in regards to
Mhm.
deep breath and just say,
Yeah.
I can't change her, I can't
Mm-mm.
change him. They are sick. And I think what I wish I realized as a younger person, and I don't know about you, and I mean, when I say younger, I mean maybe as a teenager in my 20s.
Mhm.
Um, I don't mean as a little girl, because I think as a little girl, I already had a better understanding. I think my understanding of my mom became fogged when I became more, probably self absorbed in my teenage 20 years, where everything she was doing was absolutely nuts, and I wasn't going to take any more of her nutso-ness. And,
Mhm.
and I think that I wish I would have been, there were days where I was very loving and compassionate, and I'd take her shopping and I'd say, let's go do this, mom. And I would, drive 14 hours to see her, and then she would sleep and I wouldn't see her the entire time. I mean, there was a lot of give and take with
Yeah.
us. And I wish I would have learned that earlier on, that you just have to have that give and take with them to have that relationship and to have that peace with yourself. At least that's how I found peace.
Yeah. I agree actually with you. I wish I had accepted it a lot sooner. Because I told you and I keep telling myself I knew I was going to eventually be talking to her again, because we were going to go back to Europe together. We were going to have a good time.
Yeah.
But like you said, you can't control them. And I was being stubborn and I wanted an apology because of what
Yeah.
she had done and the reason we weren't talking. And I should have known she never apologized. So why did I expect an apology this time? I just wanted to be, I was being stubborn, just like her. Uh,
Yeah.
so she was never going to apologize. And that's why I don't understand why I didn't just accept that earlier. Because yes, the relationship was abusive, manipulative, all that. But when we were on our good terms, oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That her was
Yeah.
fun. I love talking to her. Even today, sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I could call her right now. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's you can't control them. That's the big thing. I think the big takeaway from, like, if you can come to a place where it's healthy and you can do that, just know you can't control them, because then you're wasting a lot of energy that could be put somewhere else.
Absolutely. And they can't control themselves either. There comes a time where they just can't. They're sick. and they think differently than we do. And that's what we need to come to terms with. You know, I fought with her and thought that I could make her who she was supposed to be. And boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
We were all wrong. You
Yeah.
know, she was going to be who she wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, that kind of really wraps it up. I was going to close this by asking if you had any advice for anybody dealing with this now, but I mean,
That's it. You can't
that's
control
it.
them. So try to, put that energy elsewhere in a positive way. I mean, that's the best I can say.
Yeah. And they're going to do crazy things and you're going to get mad at them and they're going to get mad at you.
Yep.
You go away and, you know, take your breather time
Mm-hmm.
and just tell them that you love them. You
That's
know,
it. That's it
just,
right there.
you know, you can say, I hate what you're doing
Mm-hmm.
right now and I hate this situation, but I love you and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to go and we'll
That's
talk
exactly
later.
it. Yeah. I wish that's the one thing I would say is I wish I had told her I love you, but I'm not going to be talking to you for a very long time.
Yeah.
Instead of just cutting it, cutting her out like the way we normally did. But if I had just
Yeah.
done that part. So now I'm always very careful. I tell my kids, it's like, because they're older, I'm like, I love you, but right now I don't want to be around you.
Exactly.
So that's the way I should have done it with my mom so that she knew. I just hope that she knew. I'm sure she did, that she knew that we loved her, but that we were just as stubborn as her. So
Yeah, yeah. And I think that, you know, with my mom too, it's, you know, I just wish she could have like enjoyed her life more, you know, and put things behind her.
yeah.
And I'm just glad she's in a more peaceful
Mm-hmm.
place
Yeah.
now and that she's, you know, enjoying it. And if she wants to come and haunt me here and there, I will take it. And I'm just like
I
with
love
you.
that.
I wish every day when I'm driving home from work that I could call her and hear
Mm-hmm.
her mumble about, you know, watching Snapped, you know, where women kill their husbands on.
Oh yeah.
She
I
would watch
got
the
you.
sickest things, right?
Uh-huh.
So
I love it.
well, thank you so much, Dahlia. Oh, before we go,
Uh-huh.
so you also have a podcast
I
with your
do.
sister called the Horror Movie Podcast. Is that right?
It's Nightmare on Fifth Street, a
Oh,
horror
that's right.
movie podcast. And it's kind of funny because I was telling you earlier that it has nothing to do with my career or where I'm going. That is really just something we love to do together. We have a love for horror movies. And saying horror movies that quick is funny. We joke about that too because it
Yeah.
sounds like something else. But it's
We
called
don't need
Nightmare on
prostitutes. We need
yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street horror.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But we named it Nightmare on Elm Street, obvious. I mean, Nightmare on Fifth Street, obviously, because of Nightmare on Elm Street. We love that movie and it's a horror movie podcast, but also because we grew up on Fifth Street and it was a nightmare to live there. And that's now it ties into what we were talking about because it really was. So that was our own play on it. Like, it was a horrible life growing up on Fifth Street. But our scary movies have always been our escape. We love it. We love talking about it. It sounds weird to say, but it brings us joy. So when we talk about it, when we do our podcast, it's actually very light, even though the subject matter is, horror.
Yes,
But,
no, I
we
get ya.
joke, we laugh, we have fun with it, but it has a lot to do with the fact that it was our escape. It was our way of connecting and having fun and all of that. And so, yeah, we love doing it.
Well, I love that. So if you love horror movies, then, connect with Dahlia and
Yes.
listen to her and her sister. And well, thank you so much. Those of us living with people suffering from a mental illness have a lot to deal with too. They're not the only ones hurting. We hurt with them. Having a supportive community is so important to your health. Would love to hear your story too. Email, of course they make me crazy, @gmail.com.